Hey, what's happening, guys? Welcome to another podcast. Today we'll talk about something rather interesting. Rob Liefeld, the X-Men Force creator and the co-founder of the Image Comics, talks about how Spider-Man can appear in Avengers 3. He gives out his prediction with Sony and Marvel making a deal in the near future, and the whole thing with Marvel shutting out Fox merchandise. There are no X-Men Days of Future Past toys. The reason is they want to get the rights back. Same goes with the recent Fantastic Four rumors. And of course I'm joined by Ben. Hi, Ben.
Hello there, everybody.
And Matthew.
How's it going, guys?
Now, the rumor apparently turned out to be confirmed, turned out to be true, with Marvel making some actions there in order to get the X-Men rights back. Am I right, Ben?
I wouldn't say this is exactly confirmed. I think it is more just him speculating. Have to see, because what he does mention is suspicious. How there was no merchandise for the last few X-Men movies.
After the Origins.
Yet there is for Spider-Man. So.
And the reason we talk about it today is, of course, he speculates that eventually Sony and Marvel might make a deal and they will share the profit from the toys, if I got it correctly, right?
I believe so. Yeah, they would share the profit on all of the upcoming Spider-Man films, and they would co-finance Avengers 3.
So eventually, he predicts that Spider-Man might actually appear in Avengers 3. What's your take, Matthew?
I do believe that is the case. I think Sony, in case you look at the Amazing Spider-Man 2 box office, it is good, don't get me wrong, but it isn't as good as the previous films. It is going down, and I do believe that Sony will eventually strike the deal with Marvel. I mean, how much money would Avengers 3 make with Spider-Man? I mean, it's just unparalleled. And also, to your previous fact about the merchandising, I would understand after X-Men Origins because it was a bit crap. So I would imagine that they would lose faith in terms of X-Men First Class. That only made about 300 million, I believe, at the box office.
Well,
and X-Men Days of Future Past is making a huge comeback in terms of box office revenue, so I wouldn't be surprised if they want to try and claw the franchise back now.
Well, I wouldn't say that. It's more so the point, like, at least from my perspective, how I sort of see things is that Marvel and Sony do sort of have a good relationship going. Like, they don't. They were even talking about there was talks about them putting the Oscorp Tower in Avengers, and yet Fox and Marvel have a really bad relationship because there was a point when the Daredevil rights were going to revert back to Marvel, and Marvel told them, okay, we'll let you keep Daredevil if you let us borrow Galactus and Silver Surfer, and they're like, no, and then let the rights revert to Daredevil anyway. So I think it is more so them trying to get one, if this is true, them trying to get one up on Fox because they don't exactly like each other.
Well, they are making a good point here on the article precisely that currently Sony has some, well, not really serious financial troubles, but let's be honest, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't really meet their expectations, right?
No.
The current box office is like, what, $700,000, whatever.
Oh, it's just under that, I think, last time I checked.
Yeah, so it's not really what they expected.
700 million, I'd say.
Yeah,
700,000 would be. That'd be embarrassing, Ben.
Yeah.
You mentioned, Ben, that they're in a good relationship. Seems to be the case, and judging from Sony's point of view, maybe their plans for expanding Spidey's universe aren't really that appealing to them anymore. Maybe they will try to cooperate with Marvel to get some cash.
There's also what they've said before that, if we ever do Spider-Man and the Avengers, Spider-Man has to be the main character. And quite frankly, I almost don't want them to negotiate with Marvel because sure, I'd love to see Spider-Man in the Avengers, but A, he's not really a necessity because he's only been an Avenger for the last couple of years.
And it's a very modern thing.
Yeah, and B, what could he really add to the team that would help much? He's not the smartest. Tony Stark was way smarter than he is. He's not the strongest. He's not the quickest. Okay, he's a little bit quicker than the rest of them, but he really wouldn't add much except for maybe an extra comedic value. And sure,
that's what. Then again, Iron Man already adds that.
Yeah, and I'd argue. I mean, sure, you can crucify me if you wish, but I don't think Avengers is going to make the same money it did before because the sort of novelty of all of these heroes coming together has worn off to a point. Sure, adding Spider-Man will add money to it. I have no doubt about that. That will add money. But I don't think it's going to be like, people are saying, like, oh, it'll make $2 billion if you put Spider-Man in. No, it won't. Not even close.
Talking about Marvel shout out, not only X-Men, as far as I know, there are currently rumors about the whole thing with Fantastic Four. They aren't producing, they won't produce any merchandise in future, in the near future at least, just to give the rights back. Probably still it's sort of this rumor type of thing. Of course they won't confirm such information, obviously.
Well, actually, one thing that's interesting about that is, at least that I've noticed, I still don't believe this is true, but one thing that I noticed is them now doing a Death of Wolverine storyline, and Wolverine is the most profitable character in the X-Men. What better way to make him less appealing to casual fans who want to read about him after seeing the movie than to kill him off?
And before I bring up my next point, Ben or Matthew, could you explain me precisely how Quicksilver appears in Days of the Future Past and how exactly he will, how they came up with this? How was it possible?
It's confusing, but how it works is that with the rights, by technical standpoints, Quicksilver is a really important character to the Avengers and the X-Men. So, like, he was a villain in the X-Men, but he was also a really big player in Avengers. So that is sort of gives them a loophole, so that they can both use the character, but different companies can't mention certain things. Like Marvel can't mention that he's a mutant or that he's related to Magneto, and of course Fox can't mention the Avengers or Captain
And
America.
Scarlet Witch as well.
The reason I ask that, in order to set Spidey up for Avengers 3, if that's plausible, at all, do you think it's possible for Marvel to use certain Spider-Man villains, let's say, some characters from Spidey's universe? Definitely there were many stories, collaboration stories, Spider-Man and X-Men, Spider-Man and the Avengers. Spider-Man was in the Avengers alongside with the Wolverine. So do you think it's possible for Marvel to use certain Spider-Man characters there?
At this point in time, no, I'd say. But if Sony and Marvel do make a deal, then they'd probably have access to the whole library, because they'd actually be making a deal. Whereas with the Scarlet Witch, Skrull, and Quicksilver thing, it is all of it's a loophole. That's why they're able to get certain access to certain characters, but not to others.
So
It would only be the very big players. I'd say like Oscorp, for example. They'll definitely try and shove them in some way, and there you go. You've got your portal to all these different Spider-Man villains.
Oscorp works
especially
for
the
Hydra.
Osborns. Oh yeah, that'd be quite good actually. A collaboration between the two.
yeah, the only problem I see with that is the whole timeline. How come Spidey wasn't there in the Avengers
Yeah,
2?
exactly.
How it's even possible? Unless Marvel will come up with a new reboot or something, which is unlikely.
You can just say that all the Amazing Spider-Man films took place before Avengers.
Well, you can't really deny the fact that it's really impossible. Spidey and Avengers 3. As you said, Ben, they wanted to show Oscorp Tower. There was this whole thing going on, so they tried. Plus, as far as I know, Andrew wants Spider-Man to join Avengers. Mark Webb wants Spider-Man to join the Avengers. Emma Stone said that it's a great idea. At this point, everyone wants to join the Avengers. Even Hugh Jackman just recently said that he would like Wolverine to join the Avengers, which caused some huge hype there.
I don't think it's impossible that it'll ever happen. Like I said, I can see to a small smidgen point those few Spidey fans in the theater, but it's not going to be something that if you do it, it's not going to be like a super mountain extra load of money. If they do it, it's going to be very clear that there was no intention before this for Spidey to be in there, because they're going to find some kind of explanation as to how Spidey's there, or like you said, they're going to do a reboot again, which really annoy people even more. There's no real, I guess, clean slate way to put them in there and have everybody be satisfied with how it is. There'd be no, because Sony would have to be arguing about how much screen time Spidey gets, and even if they cut the profits, they couldn't split it like 50-50, because Sony's adding one character where Marvel has like 6. So,
But certainly there will be some profit, definitely.
if
Yeah.
this happens, split profits. But if it's 50-50, then that's just insane.
Of course, you have Sony and Marvel have to work out who gets the amount of screen time, what role does Spider-Man play, what villains come into play. But it's not just the financial side of it. You've actually got to think where has Spider-Man been? I mean, people say, oh, why wasn't Spider-Man, say, saving New York in the Avengers or one? Well, he doesn't exist in that universe. Unless they pull some sort of parallel dimension crap where it's two separate
If they
universes.
do that, then they're really
That'd be
like,
just
getting
terrible
desperate.
idea.
Yeah, everybody's so sure that if Spidey goes back to Marvel, goes back home, they will fix everything. Spidey
No,
will
they
be
won't.
perfect. That's not the case, as Ben, as you said. Iron Man 3 is a good example. Marvel aren't really making that perfect films, really.
Marvel has not made a perfect. I mean, sure, I really like Iron Man 1. I really like Captain America, but I think what's happened, thanks to Avengers, is that Marvel's gotten a bit of an ego.
The biggest problem is, of course, the timeline for me personally and for everyone probably. The article mentions as well that if Spidey joins the Avengers, Sony will also split the deal with the merchandise with Marvel, so they will get some money from that as well, from all the toys, right?
It could be merchandise too, but that's something that does kind of confuse me because I like Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'm not bashing it, but the reason that these movies aren't making the money Sony wants to make is because it's not the series, it's not the Maguire series, and some people can't get over that. Mixing it in with Marvel is not going to change opinions on that, and if they split the profits with Marvel, then Sony will be making even less money because they have to split it with Marvel. Even if the movie makes more money, they still have to split it, so.
And they will face some problems with future Spider-Man films, like now Spidey that appeared in the Avengers 3, now they have to change the whole thing, like with the Sinister Six, for example, or Venom storyline, you know. But then again,
Well,
they,
they
they
could
could
possibly
go...
make Sinister Six the villain in a not Avengers 3 because it's Thanos. We all know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
But they could bring in Sinister Six for an Avengers film instead.
And they can do the same thing with like Iron Man 3, you know, Captain America 2. Basically, if they are dealing with their own villains and stuff, you know, it doesn't really affect the whole storyline. Sort of like the events takes place at the same time, right? But then again, if the Sinister Six attacks New York City and none of the Avengers are there, would be really interesting and confusing.
I mean, that's one problem I've had with the later Marvel film, because before Avengers, you had the excuse that these characters were getting set up, they had to do their origin stories. The Avengers didn't exist at that point. But post-Avengers, in the phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, every single film I've watched, I'm saying, why are the Avengers not there? Saying Iron Man 3, when the president gets kidnapped, that's the freaking president.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was
Where's
thinking
the
about.
Avengers? Where's Thor? Where's Captain America? Would they want to help? No, it's just
Well, they
Iron
do
Man.
use the excuse they're all happening at the exact same time, which is convenient, sure, but it is an excuse. I don't
Alright, you
know.
guys, we shared our thoughts. Now it's time for you to share your thoughts. Post them down below in the comment section below. Do you believe that Spidey eventually will appear in the Avengers 3? Do you believe that Sony and Marvel will make some sort of deal, seeing how there were some steps towards forming such deal? And check out Ben's article in the description box, a more detailed article. We're talking about Rob Liefeld's, his comments and his predictions. Thanks for joining, Matthew.
See you guys.
Thanks for joining, Ben.
Goodbye, everybody.
And see you later on. I'm up for now.